is the Waupaca City Plan Commission meeting.
City folks. Yeah.
All right, it's 6:15.
Yeah.
Ivan, hi,
Hello.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, it is 6:15, and we do, this is City Plan Commission meeting that got changed from the first Wednesday of the month to today. So today is Wednesday, June 19th. We do have a public hearing to begin with, and I'll call that meeting to order. In attendance, we have Commissioners Henry Veliker, Dana Gusky, Justin Behrens, Brian Smith, Ivan Wayne, Eric Olson, and Angela Lesage. And then we also have,
Said it right.
yeah. And we also have in attendance, we have Jarrett and Aaron Jensen, who's our city administrator, and then our city attorney, Steve Sorensen, is with us tonight. We do have one guest that it does actually pertain to the conditional use permit, and his name is Brian Hemmel.
Correct.
Right? Okay, and so he wants to speak during the public part of this, and then he's gonna hang around for afterwards during the meeting too, so we can ask him questions. So, conditional use permit for Selman and Zemdra, trust owners, and Andrew Halverson and Elverson Construction applicant, 1608 Townsend Road. J-Rod, you want to give us a description of what's going on here?
Of course. So this is a conditional use permit request, and I'll just read exactly what is in the public hearing notice that was sent out. So the applicants you had mentioned and the representative you had mentioned had made an application to the City Plan Commission requesting a conditional use permit in accordance with Section 17.1043 of the Municipal Code, permitted and conditional uses, to allow an unlisted specific use substantially similar to several uses which are allowed via conditional use, including institutions of educational I can't say the word, and elio-miscegenary nature, which can just be summed to institutions of educational nature, and/or schools, colleges, and universities as a conditional use within the B3 General Commercial District. So more specifically, the applicants are looking to operate a CDL and drone training facility at this parcel. And that would be the gist of it.
All right, okay, thank you. So again, commissioners, this is just the opportunity for the public to give their input on whether they're for this conditional use permit or against this. So at this time, I'll open it up for anybody that would want to speak in favor of this conditional use permit. Just give your name and address. Step up to the podium or sit if you want, and give your name and address for the record, and tell us why you are for it.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Brian Hamill. I'm an attorney with the Dempsey Law Firm in Oshkosh, 210 North Main Street. I'm a representative of the applicants in this case, as well as Sabertooth Commercial Driving Training Institute, and de facto the trust that is the owner of the property. So in essence, my client is Sabertooth. They're looking to purchase the property, but of course it only does them good if they can do their business on it and do the things they'd like to do on it. So in essence, the trust has asked Mr. Halverson, the applicant, to file that to see if we can get this conditional use so that we can operate our business. So that's why I'm here today, and I've read through the documentation and the meeting notes, and there's been some legal opinions put out there, and I think I'd like to clarify a bit about what we do first so that everyone knows what kind of business would be operated out there. I think there may be some confusion, at least early on, about what we actually do. And I think if I have a few minutes to kind of break down the business, what goes on, what could be expected out there.
Okay, can I just interrupt you just
Sure.
for a second? Because I can. So if you can, just keep it as brief as you can for here, because you're gonna have the opportunity during the
Yep.
regular meeting to elaborate more
Yeah.
on what's going on.
Yeah, well, I'd just like to make a few points about what we do to make sure everyone's clear. So, the property is perfect, acreage-wise. It's a good price. It's got power and electricity out there to operate how they want to operate. They're a commercial driver training school. They train people for CDLs. And what that entails is 150 hours of training. I read a bit in some of the documentation about how maybe it was different than Fox Valley Tech. Like we wouldn't have classroom training, we'd have more trucks, that sort of thing. That's not the case. There's 150 hours of training, 75 of which are classroom. So part of acquiring this property is having the classroom space and the power and everything out there to do the classroom activities. The other 75% is half on the road and half in the parking lot, backing up, doing things of that nature. No horns being used, no air horns, hand signals in the parking lot. So a typical day would be 3 trucks, and that's all there is. There's 3 trucks and 3 trailers and a dump truck. On a typical day, 1 to 3 of those trucks would go out on the road in the morning and come back in the afternoon. So 1 out, 1 back in. And it could be anywhere from 1 to 3 of those, with the remainder trucks being kept in the parking lot for the backing exercises. So that's the operation with the trucks. And like I said, the location as well, less traffic out there, easier to get out, even in those pretty limited instances. Don't plan on doing much on the weekends. And the only reason there'd be other trucks out there is sometimes students come back and show off their equipment and do things like that. But otherwise, we're limited there. So it is an operation that is educational. The classroom activity, obtaining the CDL. We are a school. We're an institute. And we're just like Fox Valley Tech or any other driving school. We're teaching something, and I think a lot is getting kind of mixed up with what the code says and what a school is. There's no real definition, but the school itself is then defined as it would be classically, which is a learning institute where someone's teaching someone a skill, whether it be a tech skill or a liberal arts skill. It's still a teaching experience and a classroom activity, and you're obtaining, in this case, a license to do work, which I think we bring a lot to the community with that. And I think there's a lot of trucking around here, and I think it's important to the economy around here, and that's a big deal. Just briefly again, there's also a drone aspect of this where they have drones that they use only on the property. They'd only be they'd be within the property limits, no higher than 40 to 50 feet. Any things that they do with the drones are going to private property to do activities. So they would be taking them off the premise for that. But they would be doing training here where they have 107 licensed pilots that they've trained. They've basically do activities, surveying, things like that, but also with the Wisconsin WISCOR, the operating radio systems, where if someone is lost, something happens, their drones are called in to help out as well. So the drones would not be flying over other people's property and would be in the confines of the facility. So that's a little background. I just wanted to let you know what we do and what kind of activity would be going on out there.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Anybody else that would have testimony in favor of this conditional use permit? All right, we will take rebuttal, or we'll take anybody that is against the conditional use permit. Again, give your name and address for the record and limit your time as much as you can with this discussion. Anybody that is against this conditional use permit during the public hearing? Hearing none, I'll declare this public hearing closed at 6:24 p.m. And we'll go right into our quick bones. All right, so again, We are now starting our City Planning Commission meeting. Today is Wednesday, July 19th, 2023, 6:15 PM. Same commissioners and staff are in attendance that were at the prior meeting. We have an agenda. Jared, I think we're fine with the agenda as it is, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second?
Motion by Olson, second by Wayne, that we approve the agenda as printed. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Motion carried. All right, it's been a while since we met, but back on June 7th, so we have some public hearing minutes from June 7th and also our regular meeting minutes that we'd like to place on file, so we would ask that we have a motion to approve both of those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Barron, second by Gusky, that we approve the minutes of the June 7th meetings. Any discussion on those? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Motion carried. All right, so we really only have one action item tonight. We do have some discussion or reports later on, but we'll talk about those when we get there. So let's get right into the action item. We had just had a public hearing on that, and so it should be pretty fresh in our memory. We have a conditional use permit it's at 1608 Townsend Road. We all heard Mr. Brian Hemmel explain what they plan on doing there. And I actually am just going to turn this right over to Jared so that he can explain the city's side of this.
Thank you, Mayor. This item starts on page 8 of your packet, so I will kind of go over a little bit of what I put in my report, and then I will pass it on to Steve, our city attorney, to offer some comments that he has in his legal opinion, also in the packet, specifically on page 15, starting on page 15. So a little bit going through my report of what I had put together. So again, as stated in the public hearing, the specific language that was being requested is recognition of an unlisted specific use substantially similar to several uses which are allowed via conditional use. Some of those listed uses which were outlined in a letter to the city included, and I'll list all the uses that they had listed: offices or professional services, facilities of an educational nature, schools, and truck garages. Looking at those specific land uses, which were abbreviated. Again, the overall use that is being looked at is a commercial driving school and training facility with drone training and instruction services. For that specific kind of land use description, the applicants are requesting the offices and professional services, institutions of educational nature, schools, and truck garages. Per the city interpretation, city staff interpretation, the commercial driving school and truck training facility with drone training would fit more into the light industrial, light manufacturing land use, as well as sales, service, and repair of Category N heavy-duty vehicles, trucks, buses, coaches, tractor-trailer units, and the like. And then should note offices and professional services is a permitted use, so it wouldn't need a conditional use request. Given that the staff's interpretation would be that the CDL and drone training facility fits into light industrial and the Category N sales, service, and repair, the uses would not be unlisted and would need to follow those. And then it should be noted that the truck garage that was being requested is no longer in the city code. That was removed in January with an ordinance change that was in the works since mid-2022. So that is a little bit of what I put in there. Noting that, I guess, or clarifying that from our interpretation, we're not so looking at just the overall, does this land use fit on this parcel? We're looking at, does this land use fit within this specific district that this parcel is zoned? Not trying to discourage any businesses from coming in. We just need to make sure they're doing it properly. Happy to take any questions in the rest of the information I put in my report. Just gave some definitions. Otherwise, I'll pass it on to Steve to see if he has any additional items he would like to add to that. And then I guess short of my report, and I should have noted this before I passed on to Steve, but recommending denial of the conditional use as it does not fit within that zoning district. And then also at the end of my report on page 14, I did offer additional guidance of where the applicant can go if this application is denied. So,
Okay,
Steve?
and so we'll just keep that in mind.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. That's just for reference. Again, recommending denial, just trying to help out businesses. So put future steps if it's denied. So just something to keep in mind.
And you wanted Steve to,
Yeah. If Steve has anything else to add, I know he had included his legal opinion in this packet. So if he has anything else to add, open it up to him.
Yeah, the couple of things that I think are really, really important for the Plan Commission to understand is that this isn't an application for a specific use. This is right now whether or not it fits within the zoning code. That's really where we looked at it from the very beginning. Does this kind of facility fit in a B3 district? So the analysis is not whether the company's really great and does wonderful things or is a great advantage. It's whether or not you can take in B3 and put in a diesel training school. I mean, anything that would fit in that category. Is that what is really meant by the language? So the research that was done is to far as if you look at zoning codes and you look at the word schools and you look at the schools within the other scope, that's what you have to look at. You have to look at the other scope of activities, the retail, everything else that's allowed in the B3. Don't look at it as a single word, but look at it in combination with all the other words that are in the B3 district. Because the concept that they're asking you to look at is find a similar use. And a similar use doesn't mean pick one of the words out of the code, but pick all the words. Is it similar to a retail establishment? Is it similar to a professional office building? Is it similar to, because that's what your B3 district is that you created. So the B3 district is what you're looking at. And we're not commenting, at least I'm not commenting on whether it's a great idea and it's a great, good. I'm just commenting on the integrity of your ordinance. And I'm telling you in my legal opinion that I presented to you is that it's not consistent with what the other uses in that district are. I mean, you could pick out school and you can say, well, school means anytime I educate. Well, as I pointed out in my materials, that would mean that you could have a military training establishment there, and I don't think that's what you're talking about. You could have an engineering, with heavy-duty trucks and, like that one in Coloma. That's not what that B3 district is. And if you open it up and say that's what the word school means, I don't think that's it. And then you go back to what does it mean? And you go to look at all the schools that you do have in that district, or the type of educational facilities, a beauty school, a nail polishing school, a technical school for liberal arts, a high school, a middle school. Those are the schools that fit in that district. In your community, that's what's there. I mean, that's what the district encompasses now. So I think it's important that you recognize that if this was a proposal to have indoor training on how to get your CDL and it was simply a classroom facility, I think it would fit in the definition of school. But the minute you take it and add those other dimensions to it, you're adding something else that's not part of your ordinance. And again, I think it's what you have to recognize is the slippery slope, because if you start spreading this definition out too far, you're really suggesting that we can have a lot of different things. We could have a gun training school, we could have a rod and gun club training how to use a firearm. And I don't think that's what you want in your district, B3. Now, the other thing I would comment on, it was because it was a comment that was made earlier, is that the location may be perfect. Well, if the location's perfect, then you rezone the property. I mean, you don't take and pervert your current zoning code. You create a rezone saying, well, this property is great for this. Well, let's put a zoning code together that has the right language for that property, if that's what you all determine that that's a good property for where this should be. I'm not making that decision. I'm just telling you as a legal opinion and the research that I did, and if you look at your code, you cannot fit the activities in that code that are being requested under this conditional use permit. And again, you don't also want to create yourself, and this is my last comment, and I'll shut up for a while, but you don't want to create a situation where you have to play cop. In other words, you don't want to say you can only have 3 trucks, and somebody's got to go out there every week and make sure there's 3 trucks. Or you don't want to say that they can only operate from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then you got to go out there and operate and make sure of that. Look at the bigger picture. I've watched too many cities in my career that have created conditional uses that are just a nightmare for the administration of the city. And that's something you want to look at too. Yeah, a conditional use saying, you have to have lights that don't shine in the neighbor's window. Okay, I can get that. But nobody has to monitor that. The neighbor will monitor that. But I think you really have to, because you could theoretically create all kinds of conditions that you can't have trucks on such and such a day. The trucks have to have mufflers on of a certain size. I mean, you could pervert this, but I think that you don't even get there. I'm taking you to a world you don't have to go. You don't get there because it doesn't fit. It's not a similar use. And I think I made that very clear in the legal opinion I provided to you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Jarrett, thank you. I will open it up for questions to Steve or Jarrett, if you'd like. Since we do have a representative from Sabre here, I mean, I'll give him all the opportunity to also talk to us about that, but I wanted to open it up. If you guys had any questions at this time about what Jarrett or Attorney Sorensen has said. Henry, go ahead.
I guess it's a question to the representative. Thank you for being here.
Henry, can we hold off questions for him until he gives his spiel? And
Oh,
then,
okay.
yeah, I'm just trying to find out if we have any questions for Sorensen or J-Rod. Sorry for shutting you up there.
Nope.
Okay. Angie, go ahead.
Jared, what do you think about about rezoning?
So that is one of the options that was presented to the applicant before the conditional use was applied for. Originally how this process went is they started to submit an application. We had went to them to try to help them initially. Again, we're not trying to shush away any businesses. As staff, we're trying to see how we can make it work within the confines of the code, make sure everything is kosher as we move along. So we did reach out to them after a lengthy discussion internally about the option of looking at a rezone for that whole area. After presenting that, did not really hear anything back from them. Did then receive correspondence that they were going to move forward with the conditional use. It was applied for, and we processed it as such. So it was an option that was presented. Merely an option as staff. I can't guarantee approval of that. It has to go through the proper processes and approved by the proper councils and commissions. So it was just an option that we could explore that staff felt would be a better route than a conditional use requesting improper uses. So,
Can I ask, what did you suggest?
to the applicant, a rezone. So looking at the entire area, if you go to page 10 of your packets, there's going to be a zoning image of the zoning map currently, and the parcel in question is circled in black. So if you look at how that area has developed, overall, You have a lot of purple, which is industrial. Then you have a lot of kind of hashed, it kind of looks cream with the hashed. That's agricultural. So looking at that agricultural land, again, that's really meant for farming. The possibility of maybe expanding the I-2 district out into that area was the suggestion. There are already operations out there like a gravel pit that's industrial in nature. And then you're bordering industrial like Gusmer Enterprises, and then the smaller industrial as you head over towards, is it Redfield or Redfin?
Townsend? Oh, yeah, there's Redfield. There's
Redfield.
Yeah, Redfield.
Kind of the parcels on that street or by that street. So the intent was to then start a conversation on, is this an area we'd like to see maybe develop into the industrial area, in which would accommodate the sales, service, and repair of heavy trucks and light industrial, which staff interpreted the presented land use, more as. If that answers the question.
Yeah, I think as long as we have that land use up there too, and then you can see that subdivision that's there, that is not in the city of Waupaca, that's actually in the town of Waupaca.
Yep.
But there is a residential subdivision there, even though it's not in the city of Waupaca, and the ballpark, which is the property they're talking about, it's the old, it was a bar and softball diamond area. I mean, what are the best uses there? Is B3 even the right one? It was when it was a bar, but now it hasn't been a bar for, I don't know, I would say 5-6 years, maybe longer than that. And maybe, is the better use residential? Is it better industrial? Is it better business? We haven't had that discussion. We don't know what we like out there in that area. We don't know what the residents like out in that area either. And I think that's what Jared's trying to get at is we wanted them to go through the zoning process, rezoning their property, so that we had the opportunity to try and have that discussion about these properties. So that's,
I think you are accurate in your statement. Yeah, it's a bigger conversation that needs to happen that hasn't been had, and an initiation of a zoning change would start that conversation, both internally and being brought to Plan Commission as well. So,
yeah. All right. Sounds good. Anybody else have any questions for Attorney Sorensen or Jared?
Well, this probably goes to Jared. 2 questions. The first, who initiates a zoning change like that? Is it an applicant or from the city side?
so it could come from both. If it's definitely a conversation we could just start on our own. I will say there would need to be a level of interest being brought forward for us to change that, or just, I guess, again, a bigger issue that we're trying to solve. Are we looking for more industrial? Are we looking for more housing? Is this an area that we want to look at expanding to? Then we'd start that discussion. So at this point, it really hasn't been an area of any interest or discussion until this point. So we haven't discussed it.
Okay.
But in this case, I feel it would probably be more appropriate coming from the applicant, as they have a specific land use in mind. It helps with advocacy towards a possible rezone of what they'd be requesting, to show that there is truly interest in it, if that makes sense. So it
Sure.
could come from us as the city, it could come from the applicants.
Would you ideally want this parcel to be the only thing involved in that first relook at the zoning, or would you be thinking about other parcels around it
For an instance like this, we really shouldn't spot zone either. So we'd probably look at the whole area to see if that whole area should turn into something different.
Yeah, again, just to say exactly what Jared has, because this is the same discussion we had at a staff level, is that, what's best for that area, and to just pick one parcel out of there is probably not the best thing to do. It's to look at the whole area and see what's best for there. Okay. All right, anybody else? Okay, if I call you Brian?
Sure.
All right. Brian, again, is representing Sabre. So go ahead, Brian.
Thank you. What I'd like to get back to, and the rezoning is a great unknown. I mean, that's an undertaking that we don't know much about what the city's going to want to do. You said, is it spot zoning? How big a project would this be, and how big of a change? So the idea of getting the conditional use permit was more of a known. And it was a known because one of those conditional uses is education and training. And that's what we're doing. That's what I explained to you guys earlier. If you read, and it's what Jared said, they're saying that what we're doing and what I described to you is light industrial and light manufacturing operations. We are not industrial and we're not manufacturing anything. It says sales, service, and repair of Category N heavy-duty vehicles. We're not selling, we're not servicing, we're not repairing any vehicles. It's not what we do. So that is what the city is, or the planning is telling us that we are, and we are not that. And it's what I explained to you. And it's not, Attorney Sorensen says, well, it could be military. It's not military, it's driving school. It could be industrial. Well, this isn't industrial. It could be gun training. It's none of those things. So I know we could put up some hypotheticals about what someone could do, and you guys have discretion about what someone could do there. You could obviously limit that. You don't have to give a conditional use permit to a gun training school in town. So I think those, and he talks about perverting the code. We're not perverting the code. We're using the language of the code to find a conditional use permit for a property that would fit what we do. And I think our business, what we do, our training, our education is being totally mischaracterized by this description. And that's right what they're using to say what we are, and that's not what we are. So to me, that's where the big disconnect is here. What are we? What are we gonna do? And if you heard what I said and the description of what we do, we're a school, and we're not any of the sales, service, repair, manufacturing, none of those things. And we're more like professional offices, more like personal services. We got classrooms, there's offices. We fit that category, and those things are permitted for conditional use.
Okay, thank you. That brought up a question for me, Jared. So let's say that we did rezone it to, and what would fit in that again? Industrial, anything industrial would allow them?
From staff's opinion, yes, anything industrial. So, and the reason we came to that conclusion, yes, there is classrooms. But again, if you look at their building layout, over 50% is garage, which I would assume and somewhat hope if you're being trained in a truck, you're going to be trained on generally how to maintain it, fix it. If you're broken down to the side of the road, generally what to do with it. There's going to be some instances of, again, learning how to repair the truck, learning the truck in the garage. There's catch basins, so washing the truck, servicing them, that's where staff's getting at. If I had to look at the building,
I guess
at least 75% is that. So that's where we got the category sales service of Category N tractors, which would fit in the industrial zoning. And then again, going to the foundry, a lot of truck traffic, use of heavy trucks. It's really more of an industrial use. So that's where the light industrial comes in. So yes, industrial would be, in staff's opinion, the correct district to rezone to.
okay. And so,
Or find within the city.
let's say that you initiate or they request the initiation of the rezone here. Would they still have to come here for a conditional use permit if it was industrial?
No, if it was a change to industrial, both would be permitted uses. So if you look on that rezoning map again, the one that's zoomed out, if they found any vacant space in that purple, they could go there with just a change of use and then site plan. Because they're putting a new building, or they may be putting a new building.
So help me get through this conditional use part of this. So since it's B3 and their Sabre is thinking that it's educational, That's the reason that they need a conditional use permit for that?
Yes, so the institutions of educational nature and schools are both conditional uses within the B3 zoning district.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else have any, Henry, I know you had a question before, I don't know if it got answered or not.
Yeah, it was sort of the flip side. I was going to ask the applicant if they were, if the staff discussed the rezoning option. Yeah, that got answered.
Okay. All right. Everybody have enough information? Yeah, go ahead, Henry.
I think what's going to help me make a decision is staff looked at the building size, so we know what they're going to build. They're going to tear down the tavern and build a new building?
Yeah.
So you look at the square footage and you're saying the majority of, 75% of it is garage. You said earlier you're not maintaining you're not maintaining the vehicle. So they're shipped out to be maintenance somewhere else?
Yes.
What's the space for? Is it just to park the rigs? Are you gonna just be washing the rigs? Are you gonna actually be doing maintenance?
I don't believe there'll be any maintenance there. It'll be shipped out for maintenance. That's for storage of them and for, I'm sure they'll do washing. They'll also probably do some teaching inside. They'll be working with the truck. Not repairing the truck. I don't think repair is any part of the CDL training that they're doing. They will be, working in the truck and figuring out how to use it, obviously. So I'm assuming in the winter it'd be a little more often, but most of it is going to take place on the road or in the classroom.
Well, by the nature of what they're teaching, and we're thinking of schools in a traditional sense, I get it. But trucks are big, and if you're gonna store them in a garage, or you need a bay big enough to wash them, by the nature, it's gonna take more room. I don't, what's the future, what's the comp plan in our town, our fellow town, is it Waupaca? What is the zoning to the north? Land use, projected land use to the north?
So what's north? Is that across Highway E or into the
On the same, I
subdivision?
guess I'm thinking the same side. Well, maybe it's northwest.
I don't know either, I'm asking you.
So if you look at this picture here directly to the north, which would be straight up, across E, there's a bunch of, I believe it's pine stands, and private properties. I think there's a few with just like single family homes on them. If you go a little bit to the northwest, that is actually a marsh property, so a lot of it's undevelopable. If you head to the straight west, there's a bit of wetlands there, but a lot of that's just vacant land. To the south is the gravel pit and vacant land, and then to the east is vacant land, and then a little bit further east, past that smaller or the bigger rectangle parcel, is the single family subdivision that is currently out there.
But in our planning, as like in Apple Tree Lane, we always kind of envision that in the future someday could be more commercial. And we're talking a couple miles outside our boundaries. Does the plan talk about further up E, what's gonna go there or to the east?
It does not expend, anything in the white is
Ag based.
just undecided.
Okay.
It didn't go out that far.
Okay,
Just
so we never had discussions about what we
correct.
thought.
Well, some of that is in the township though, Henry.
Yeah, the subdivision, right? And,
Yeah, and so is, there is that one parcel north of Highway E that is in the city, but the rest of that is in the town.
yeah.
Yep. Hey, Angie, you probably know better out there than we do, yeah.
So anything that is planned right now, future planned land use surrounding that is that single family resident, or I should say low density residential.
Correct.
just in case you can't see that small writing on there.
Okay. Eric, go ahead.
Well, just looking at the building plans, I'm just wondering if there's not gonna be any maintenance, why do they have some kind of pit there which looks just like where they change oil? Would that be considered maintenance? Or why would they have the pit?
I don't know what pit you're referring to.
Well,
pit?
they've got stairs right in the middle of the garage that go down, and that just looks exactly like when you go get your oil changed, that's what that
Oh,
looks
okay.
like.
I mean, there may be oil changes, I don't know, but we're maintaining our own vehicles if we would be doing any of that. We're not bringing in other person's vehicles, and I think a lot of what that refers to is the sales, service, repair, the commercial like setting. Yeah, they may be changing oil, that could be something. But to me, when I read that, I read it as more of a commercial operation where we're servicing vehicles, we're participating in sales of vehicles and repairing vehicles, and that's not what we're doing.
So if rezoning gets you what you're after, why are you opposed to it?
Not opposed to it, but it's a great unknown, and it's a lot harder to do. And the other part of this is we felt it fit under this. So to try this as an educational place where it gives us a conditional use, we thought that'd be the best route to go. If this all gets denied, obviously we would revisit it and try to do that. Based on what I see here in the conversations, that's a really unknown whether that's going to be possible. So to me, it fit under this conditional use permit, and that's why we went this way, at least now.
All right, so you're taking a shot at it to see what the decision is. If that is turned down, then you're gonna explore the other options.
Right, and it's more than a shot at it. It was something we looked at and said, hey, this is us, and this is what this conditional use is for, and we think it's appropriate. So it was more of, this is an appropriate way to go. There wasn't, we can't get any guarantees on getting a rezoning, so you take the path that seems the most applicable, and that's what this seemed like.
So, I say this, so if the city takes a look at this, or if somebody requests rezoning there, and, but let's just take a look at that. It's mostly residential around there right now. There is that gravel pit, but most of it is residential in that area. So let's say that the city believes, and the people that live in that area believe that it's better to be residential, single family, and that's basically what it is out there. It could be, I guess, multifamily out there too. Is, in a way, this spot right here that we're talking about is kind of spot zoning then, in that if you built a house there, would you want this business next to your house? And that's why you look at rezoning, to see what fits there, and you don't want to have a situation where you have residential that surrounds the whole thing and then have a light industrial operation going on.
Isn't there a house directly to the west of this property?
There is, yeah. They must be, yeah, I guess that is split off, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's this.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Okay, anybody else have any questions? Jared, would you just, again, inform the commissioners what your recommendation is?
So our recommendation, my recommendation as staff would be to deny the conditional use permit request, as it is not compliant with the city's general code of ordinances as it relates to the B3 general commercial zoning district.
All right. Anybody want to make a motion? I'm lucky enough to be a voting member on this, so I will make the motion, actually, that we deny the conditional use permit for this property.
And I'm sorry, I will say, this is still a recommendation to council.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right. I recommend to council that we deny this conditional use permit. Do we have a second? Second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Olson. So we have a motion and a second to deny the conditional use permit, or to deny to council the recommendation of this conditional.
So it still goes to council, but they can see how we voted?
They will.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they could change their mind.
Sure.
Yeah, they could. Absolutely. All right, any other discussion? Yeah, go ahead.
I hear what our council's telling us about precedent, his memo. You know, that can always limit us, you know, in the future, for sure. But this is an area that at least no one in the staff has talked about ever growing. Understand getting utilities out there is very costly and difficult. And conditional uses, we can put conditions on it, correct? And your point about we don't want to be the conditions police, but we have a business who would like to come to our town and train drivers in a much-needed skill that, you know, there's not enough drivers out there. So I'm really having a hard time with this, commissioners, because I feel like, you know, he evaded the question of service, okay? So I'm a little leery that maybe it is you're servicing your own vehicles, but you're still servicing them. So I'm not sure what we do with conditions on that. But it seems to me like we've done other conditional uses in similar situations where we were concerned about operations to the neighbors and impact to the neighbors. And we didn't have any issue with granting those. So if they're a bad player, right, can't we come back and revisit them in a year? And if they're representing something that is not true, then they take a risk of investing and they being shut down. So I'm having a hard time with this one.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Henry. I don't think you had a question in there, right? You're just,
I just wondering that, because I think a total rezoning, I get their point that that's a lot of unknown. Are we essentially really just going through a process to push them into another part of our city and not out there?
you just argued for the rezoning, quite
Well,
honestly.
well, but, you know.
Okay, anybody else have an opinion? All right, we're gonna do if you're okay, we're gonna do a roll call vote, and I'll start, and we'll go to the right and go all the way around. So if you vote aye, you are actually voting against the condition, or the recommendation to council of the conditional use permit. Everybody understand the motion and the second? All right, I vote aye. Justin?
Aye.
Dina? Aye. Henry?
No.
Angela?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ivan?
Aye.
All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ayes, 1 no, motion carried. And I know that Jared has shared with you other options that you have. Obviously, you can come to city council and discuss it with city council members also, okay?
Yes.
So I think he's done a pretty good job of giving you options if this doesn't go.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah. All right, Steve, thank you.
You want me to go? I'll go.
No, you can stay. We're just giving reports. If we're paying you by the hour, yeah, get the hell out.
I'll get the hell out of here then. Just don't call me back and say, "What, did you help some question on that one?" No, thank you. I'll get out of here, or I'll quit billing anyway.
Okay, we're down. There are no discussion items. So let's just talk about our reports for the month and development update. Jared?
Thank you, Mayor. The reports start on page 31 of your packets. First up is the building report. Again, building has been consistently steady, keeping our both building inspectors very busy. I'm not sure if there's any, I guess, truly notable projects, but if there's any you guys have questions on, let me know. The next report on page 34 is for the zoning part, or zoning report. Again, dealing with change of uses, certified survey maps, things like that, fences. Again, staying pretty busy with those. Yeah, happy to take any questions on either of those. We move on to development.
Jared, are you seeing any kind of, everybody knows there's higher interest rates and stuff like that. Are you seeing any reduction in building permits? Maybe because people think interest rates are high and the economy might be slowing down or anything like that?
Possibly with some. A lot of the building permits that we do have coming in, they are smaller projects. Renovations. A lot of commercial projects are coming in. A lot of the mechanical, I would say, are commercial. A lot of commercial alterations, bigger projects like that. We haven't really seen too many single-family homes. There will be 3 more coming on next month's report, but those have definitely slowed down, and I think part of that is also due to we had an agreement with a developer out in Eastgate, and that has since ceased or slowed, and a lot of those lots are now utilized. So I think until the city takes a look and has infrastructure for additional single-family home lots, we will see a continued reduction in those. But overall, it's definitely down a little bit, and that would probably due to construction costs and interest rates. So,
Yeah, I've noticed, I think Justin, you want to say something, but I have noticed that contractors are advertising a little bit more on the radio and TV too, so I'm thinking they're looking for jobs now where, they were 10, 20 deep for a long time, so. Yeah.
Any idea on the appetite of commercial versus residential construction? Like projected forecasts? I mean, about a year ago it was 100% residential. We need to look for more room, and doesn't seem to be that way anymore, but I could be wrong. I just want your opinion, Jared.
yeah, I think residential is still kind of the hot topic. We don't have too many commercial vacancies, which is good. I know we get a lot of calls for interested parties looking for smaller commercial spaces, as well as restaurant spaces. They're looking for spaces that are already kind of set up to be a restaurant. They don't have to invest in, the entire commercial kitchen setup. So a lot of those, and we don't have a lot of small commercial or kitchen areas open, which again, kind of a good problem to have. They're full. The ones we do have, there is some vacant space, bigger commercial spaces out there, but I really haven't heard of much interest in those specifically. But then everybody's always talking about houses. So, and then the big question again is, what is an affordable house nowadays? So they're looking for houses, but they are looking for truly affordable houses as well.
Have we heard if T-Dubs is going up for sale?
It is for sale.
It is for sale?
There's a sign on the back
Yeah.
Okay, so.
on
that
Cooper Street.
That would be an opportunity. You
Yep.
just said they're looking for places that are established already.
Yep, and I have the few people, I guess there's probably 3 or 4 now that have reached out about the commercial kitchen space. I did send them their way, but I have not heard back from them. So I don't know, plus minus, maybe they're working on a deal. I don't know.
Yeah, sure would be nice to see that.
Would be nice to see that full again.
Well, as a former bar restaurant owner, I have to tell you, every place is for sale. So if they're looking, they'll find one.
Everything's for sale.
All right. Any other questions on reports? development update, that was kind of all put together there.
Yeah, it's kind of all put together. Yeah, deconstruction of the St. Mary's site is near complete. Looking to hopefully get some building permits from them soon. Some of the other apartment complexes that have been proposed, the one out by the Foundry and the one in River North, those are still being worked on. Don't really have a good timeline for you guys on that.
How about, I know you and Aaron had, and maybe you're not ready to share yet at this meeting, but you had a meeting with U-Haul because they had some violations already.
Yep. Had a meeting with U-Haul. They have proposed a new building, as you guys maybe remember, on that lot. And they had informed us that they're hoping to have permits and start construction on that within a year from now. So look forward to that occurring. And then they have they'll be adding additional green space. I know we've gotten complaints of, how that property looks. They've already repainted, which looks really good. They will be adding additional green space. Landscaping. They will be cleaning up, I'm sure, the parking lot a little bit, and then that new building. So there's a lot to do with that parcel yet, but they're in process. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, the only thing from a timeline, so you summed it up really well. From a timeline standpoint, sounds like a new kind of site manager. He asked for just a week to 2 weeks to get that plan together on when that landscaping will be done. So if we don't hear from him in 2 weeks, we'll be checking back with him in 2 weeks to get that timeline.
So the signs and everything's okay there?
Signs we
Okay.
also need a better plan for, and they'll come back for that. So
Okay.
we're everything's on pause there until we get some finalized plans that are code compliant.
So the violations they've incurred are minor, or is it just mechanical type things with the renovation?
A lot of them are just zoning related, so I would say minor in in the general grand scheme of things.
They're making every effort to become compliant.
Yep, and they're making every effort to become compliant. There's a few, I think, issues with building, but they're working through that with the building inspector. So.
When they were going to go into that building, I was thinking, holy cow, they're going to be putting lipstick on a pig, type thing. But I actually think they did a good job on the front of the building, I don't like the containers in front, the way they just sit there in the parking lot, but, and that's what he was talking about with landscaping and so on.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the building's looking much better than it has in a long time, but I had the pleasure of moving my daughter in Madison on Saturday, and I had to rent a truck at the U-Haul, one of them in Madison, and I mentioned the U-Haul here in Waupaca, and the guy said that it's going to be the biggest one in the state, and I thought, why would they want to put that in little Waupaca? But I thought, that's kind of cool, I guess, that we'll have the biggest something in the whole state right here.
Storage or rental of vehicles or
don't know,
both?
but I don't know what he meant by the biggest in the state, but
Oh,
I don't know, maybe square footage? I don't know.
could be, yeah, could be. They took over the old Kmart in Oshkosh too. I know that's similar. And they actually did a better job on the building here than they did in Oshkosh, I think. So, are they even open, Jared?
Their retail store is open, and I believe they are open for internal storage unit rentals.
Yeah, okay.
I think I believe they're actually now complete with the outside storage rentals as well, so I think those might be open.
All right, and then, Justin, you want to just give a little update on your small little building?
It's progressing along. The repair garage went up very fast, and it doesn't look like a whole lot has happened since, but a lot has happened as far as block wall and it's interior of the building, but it's going up, and then inside of the repair garage, there's a lot more happening inside of it. Actually walked around today with the site foreman and was kind of blown away of like, oh, shoot, you did all this? So it's right on schedule and within budget, or projected to be within budget, so we're all good.
Great.
If you really take the time to look at the footings, it's like, gonna be walls coming up over this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's gonna be quite impressive.
And then, Justin, would you mind giving an update on the solar panels on City Hall?
It's my first project like that. Inside joke. The solar project is darn near complete. There is one transfer switch shut-off type box that's waiting for delivery and be installed. And then once that is done, it'll be powered up, operational, and then we'll have to go through some training. There's software and it's not Tesla software, but they work in conjunction with the Tesla battery packs. And we can program it how we want. We're going to set it up to offset during our peak usage, which is typically 11 a.m. to about 4 p.m. Our rate is the highest at that time. And so that's how we're going to typically operate. It is smart enough that when it detects like extreme weather coming, that it will let it charge even 100% and be prepared in case of an outage. So hopefully, I mean, still shooting for by the end of the month, this thing should be working for us, saving us some expenses on this electricity bill at this building.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool project. And we did, council members know this, but commissioners, we did have a presentation by an individual that was looking at using city property for solar farms here. So I don't know that we've heard any more about that, but we're still waiting on that discussion a little bit more.
That was specifically involving the landfill, North landfill, currently unused and is really difficult to develop on, given the restrictions that we have with the capping and the DNR, and et cetera. So, yeah, more to come once we have more information on that. I think the final thing I have, a movie was selected for next Friday's movie, actually right behind City Hall, and it's going to be Super Mario Bros.
It's open for Barbie.
Yeah.
I guess that's a tough ticket.
Yeah, you don't think it's gonna be in Waupaca for a while?
Not for a while.
Yeah, probably.
I think it is.
Well, it's good to see the movie theater back.
Yeah, that's good too.
Traffic downtown is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty soon we're gonna hear complaints from the businesses downtown.
Uh-oh, parking enforcement, here we go.
Yeah, right? Anybody else have anything for the good of the meeting? Eric, are you watching or not?
No.
Okay, let me see if I can help. 3-3, middle of the 6th.
All right.
Go Brewers. Need a motion to adjourn? Motion by Henry,
Second.
second by Eric that we adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Again, say no. Motion carried. We're out of here
Go Brew Crew.
at 7:18.